Welcome. This video is sharing some high-level findings from Bridge to Completion, a report on college access and success for Metro Nashville Public School graduates. This work is done through a partnership between the Nashville Public Education Foundation and the Tennessee College Access and Success Network, funded by NPEF. The questions we're seeking to answer with this report are, while seniors in high school, did students intend to enroll in college? If they intended to enroll, did they enroll, and if not, why? Where did they enroll and why? What interventions were in place that helped students along their college paths? Once enrolled in college, did they persist from year to year, and if not, why? And did they complete a degree? Here are our findings. So looking at the class of 2016, we see that 80% of students are taking concrete steps that signify an intent to enroll in college. We also see that MNPS's college going rate has been steadily increasing over the last 3 years, from 57% in 2014 to 61% in 2016. And that's being driven by spikes at particular high schools that are serving a student population that's majority low income and majority students of color. We refer to these schools as pockets of excellence. And what we see with these pockets of excellence is that this growth is occurring because of a convergence of services upon these high schools that is in turn driving growth. So Stratford is a great example of this. We've seen the college going rate there increase by 19 percentage points during that 3-year period of time from 2014 to 2016. So although students are taking steps toward college, we see that many students who intended to enroll in the end of high school don't actually end up enrolled in college in the fall. And so that phenomenon is known as summer melt, and we estimate that 24% of MNPS students are melting. Nationally, between 10 and 40% of students melt, but within that we see that there are wide discrepancies by high school, with some high schools showing virtually no summer melt and other high schools showing melt rates above 40%. We also see that students are enrolling in two-year institutions at high rates, especially Nashville State, where 1 in 4 MNPS college goers attends. And based on interviews, we estimate that the majority of MNPS graduates who are attending college are staying in the Nashville metro area to do so. These students are commuting to school and living at home to save money, even when they attend an institution that offers on-campus housing. When we examine past classes persistence data and project forward for the class of 2016, we see that within 15 months of high school graduation, we project that less of half of the MNPS high school graduates from 2016 are going to still be on track to earn a degree. This is due to a combination of summer melt and a low first to second year persistence rate. We heard from stakeholders that this low persistence is being driven by affordability challenges. So the majority of MNPS graduates are eligible for Pell Grants. Pell eligibility is a standard measure of low income status in higher ed. And so students who are receiving a Pell Grant aren't having trouble meeting their direct expenses. So tuition and fees are covered by the Pell Grant or by another form of financial aid, but instead students are struggling with indirect expenses. And so they are facing food insecurity, they lack access to housing and transportation. And we estimate that the majority of graduates are working while they attend college, often full-time, in order to support themselves and their families. So these are students where if they were forced to choose between college and work, they're most likely choosing work because they really need that income. We know that for the most recent class for which data is available, the class of 2011, only 24% of students earned a degree within 6 years of high school graduation. 4% of graduates earned 2-year degrees and 20% earned 4-year degrees. We don't anticipate a higher completion rate for the class of 2016 when we project out. Instead, it's possible that 2016 graduates will actually have a lower completion rate than their 2011 peers. Bridge to Completion also examines Nashville in a national context. As part of this work, we examine how MNPS graduates compare with graduates of other peer city districts and the nation's 3 largest urban districts in terms of college enrollment. We see that Nashville and Orange is in the middle of the pack. Cities like Austin, New York, and Louisville are outpacing Nashville when it comes to college enrollment. Our interviews and research into the practices in these other communities reveal that the cities that are outpacing Nashville have 4 things in common. First, all of them have a high level of coordination around college access and success that's driven by a collective action initiative, and it's spearheaded by an organization whose sole mission is around degree completion. An example would be 55,000 Degrees in Louisville. Along with that collective action approach, we also see that these cities have a greater absolute level of funding for college access and success, as well as a coordination of their funding. So this includes private funders like philanthropic organizations working together, but it also includes an alignment of public funds around these initiatives in a public-private partnership. Significantly, all of these cities are in states with some type of in-state tuition options for undocumented students at public higher ed institutions. Some of these states also award state financial aid to undocumented students. And finally, we see based on district strategic planning and communications, it appears these districts are placing a large emphasis on college access and success. They're often highlighting it as a key data point, or they have a specific goal around it as part of their strategic planning. So we also wanted to look at how MNPS graduates compare with the graduates of low-income high schools that participate in the National Student Clearinghouse nationwide. So these are high schools that serve a population that's 50% or more free or reduced price lunch. Compared to these schools and to the nation as a whole, we see that MNPS graduates are much more likely to attend two-year institutions than their peers. So Nashville sends a greater proportion of college goers to two-year institutions than the comparison groups, and the two-year enrollment share for Nashville is growing quite dramatically. We heard that one driver around this trend is loan aversion. So many students change their college plans late in the game to attend a two-year institution rather than a four-year institution. If they've been admitted to the four-year institution but receive a financial aid award that would require them to take out a student loan, these students are changing their plans often over the summer to attend a two-year institution instead. We also looked at persistence rates in comparison again with this low-income high school group nationwide. So the two bars at the top show persistence at four-year institutions, and we can see that MNPS graduates are performing pretty similarly to their peers at those institutions. However, at two-year institutions, which are the lines at the bottom of the graph, we see that there's a growing gap between persistence rates for MNPS graduates at these two-year institutions and their peers at similar schools nationwide. This growing gap is fueling an overall persistence decline for MNPS graduates because more students are attending two-year institutions and then they're not persisting once they're there. So how can Nashville move forward? We recommend that Nashville pursue a community-wide initiative centered around an ambitious college completion goal. Attaining this goal is going to require stakeholders to come together to break down silos, share resources with one another, and pursue a common policy agenda. One example of an ambitious goal would be 40% college completion by 2025, which is depicted on the right. To achieve this goal, Nashville would need to work incrementally to attack key metrics in the degree completion pipeline. So for example, cutting summer melt in half would achieve a college going rate of 70%. And then if more supports were put in place for college students, particularly affordability supports at two-year institutions, we would see increased persistence. And so then that would lead to more students completing degrees, and we would attain a 40% completion rate. We recommend that a community-wide initiative focus on these 5 key focus areas. So affordability, helping fewer students to leave college due to unexpected life expenses, increasing the availability of data, ensuring it's uniformly tracked and sharing it with practitioners so that it can inform practice, equitable access to high-quality college counseling and support, so making sure that's available for every student, focusing in on Nashville State and ensuring that the students there get more support managing school and life, and then really focusing in on that transition to college. So measuring summer melt, driving visibility, and increasing interventions to reduce it. Thank you. If you'd like to view the full report, please reach out to either NPEF or TCAS and we'd be happy to provide it to you. It's also available on both organizations' websites.